Welcome back. We are going to continue on our conversation talking about children. If you didn't see the post earlier today, I made one that talked about managing behaviors, specifically rewards versus punishment. So this is a big topic and something that I see that a lot of parents inadvertently do about what they're doing about their problem behaviors. So one of the things is, which one do we prefer? Rewards or punishment? Most of us have been raised on punishment. Some people feel like rewarding too much is going to spoil children, and there are some pros and cons to both. What we do know scientifically, at least, is that we like to be reinforced with positive things longer. So rewards to some degree are better than punishments with certain behaviors, obviously. So for instance, one of the things that I commonly see with parents when I ask them for, okay, well, what do you do when so and so hits or does something that he's not supposed to, breaks a rule? They go, well, we punish them, we take away their iPad, we take away video games. Okay, that's great. And what do you do? Is that helping? Obviously not, because they're sitting in my office, right? And then what are you doing when they don't do those behaviors? And there's a silence that usually takes over the room. And the important part to remember here is that when our kids are doing things that we want them to do, we want to give them at least praise. It doesn't always need to be a candy, a cookie, a LOL doll. None of that. We're going to talk a little bit about person versus process praise. And this is just something to acknowledge, like, wow, I really noticed that you and your sister are getting along. That's really good of the both of you. That right there is you are recognizing and reinforcing that good behavior rather than always punishing them for fighting. It's hard for them to know what behaviors not to do. We also have to give them the behaviors that we want to see them do, right? So for instance, let's say a kid is lying, okay? Kids lie, if they're scared they're going to be getting in trouble. Most times that's the reason, right? And we catch them in a lie. We might reprimand them. We wait, obviously, take down some of the stuff from the previous videos, wait till they're at a cool moment, they're calm and collected, and then speak to them about the importance of honesty depending on their age, right? But when you see them telling the truth about something or being honest about anything, you want to also reinforce that behavior. I like that you were honest right there. It shows a lot of integrity. It shows that you're a person of your word. We really value that. Now, this is where we get into the difference of person praise versus process praise when we're talking with children and we're trying to change behaviors, okay? So person praise says, I'm a good girl. Oh, what a good girl. You're a good boy. That's what we're used to. That's the vocabulary that we're used to using, but it's not really that good, because what happens with that type of speaking is that it internalizes, I'm a good girl, I'm a good boy. The minute that they don't do something right, I'm not a good boy, I'm not a good girl. And that's what we want to try to steer away from. Rather, when you do process praise, you're actually influencing the behaviors that you want to see. Wow, that was very smart of you. Or, oh, that was very responsible of you. Now you're linking to them what makes them a good girl, what makes them a bad boy. That wasn't very kind of you to smack your sister. You see the difference there in terms of like, it's more of like an explanation, and you're really reinforcing the specific type of behavior that you want to see in your child. And again, this is one of the biggest common mistakes that I see in parenting when I get kids that come in to see me. So that's one thing. Now let's talk about the differences between rewards and punishments. So rewards and punishments. I am going to speak not only from a professional standpoint, but I am going to put in my personal opinion in here. And I tell my clients that all the time. I do not believe that if you do not work hard that you deserve a reward. Okay. Not everybody should be getting a participation trophy. They should earn it. Okay. I'm a firm believer of that, because we don't want to raise a generation of children that are entitled. What happens is that they get to work and they do their assignment on time for their boss, and they're like, okay, so like, where's my present? You did your job. Your paycheck is your present, right? We don't want to instill that in people's minds. So that trophy for everybody thing is a little bad. You do want to reinforce behaviors though, and some of those things can be monetary. If you do give them chores, you can try to take away chores when they've done a good job. Like, oh wow, you've done 3 out of the 4 chores that you're usually supposed to do, and you did them without me having to tell you. I'm gonna go ahead and take one of those chores away. Don't worry about it. I'll do it. Now, it's not that you're being easy on them, but you're showing them that it's better for them to take that responsibility. Okay. I never think it's a good idea to use chores as a punishment. Why? Because chores, when we give chores, it's because we want our children to be responsible. We want them to grow up to be friendly. We want them to be organized. We want them to live in pretty well conditions, right? So using it as a punishment is not so much of a good thing. Okay. So that's one consideration that I want you to take if it is a route that you use, giving them chores as a punishment. The other punishment that I want you to take into consideration, and this is a huge, huge debate, we can go back and forth on it if you want, is this time out concept. Now, you did hear me in one of my videos talk about a time in, which means let's take a break to breathe, okay? Now, the problem with timeout is that you're sending a child to a corner, you're sending them to somewhere where they're isolating. So you're literally stripping them of affection. And we talked about attachment, and this can be really critical for a child. They're already upset. You're not giving them time to cool down really, because the only thing that they're doing is sitting in the corner and thinking how messed up you are. And then on top of that, now you made them sit in the corner. So they were already pissed to begin with. And now you're sending them to a corner by themselves to isolate. It's not as effective. Now, if you want to tell them, hey, how about you go take a seat over there and take a few breaths while they're around you, that is better. And then what you do is you take what you call a timeout. After they've had their moment for whatever behavior that they've done, don't talk to them. Don't bring it up. The worst thing that you want to do immediately afterwards is give them a lecture about what they just did wrong. Guess what? They know what they just did wrong because you just put them in time in, or to take 5 minutes of breathing time, and that's all that they thought about. So to sit there and rehash it out is like, again, I'm a little sound effect that I like. It's like womp womp, and it agitates them. You're going to get that bottom brain going again, and you're going to be at square one. Okay. So don't talk to them about it. If it's really important, like let's say lying or something that's serious, then give them a few minutes after they've gotten out of their time in, after they've taken their breaths and their breaks and they've cooled down, and then you bring up the topic and ask questions instead of lecture. And what I mean by this is don't sit there and go, lying is really bad because it's this and that. Yeah, you're right. But more of the point goes, why do you think that lying is something that gets us upset? Or why do you think it's important for people to tell the truth, right? This enhances their understanding. And this is what we really want to get them to be. We want to teach them how to think, not what to think. And when you ask them questions, they're able to think through. My students, I love to kind of mess with them a little bit, and it's in a very positive way. But when they answer questions, even if I think that they're right, I go, well, why do you think that? Or explain it to me. And it's not that I don't understand, but the more that somebody can explain something to you, the more that they understand it. And the more that they understand it, the more credible they come. And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of times I have future doctors, future nurses, lawyers sitting in the class, and I go, how are you going to seem credible if you can't answer questions? Where did you get that information? How do you know that? Where is it derived from? What is your point on that? Where are you trying to get to with this? Okay, so certain questions are really good in helping you understand your children rather than just being the lecturer. And listen. When you listen, you'll actually find out a lot about your child, and that is the part of, repairing ruptures when you guys have these bumps in the roads because of their behaviors. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here for that one. Again, trying to keep them a little short. I hope whatever I did provide to you was good. We'll continue on these topics. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing and watching and sharing, and I look forward to more videos.